Hey, it's Rob Lightfoot, proud two-time alum of Rowan University.
And I'm Jessica Kennedy, also a two-time Rowan alum. And you're listening to
Beyond the Brown and Gold.
Rowan Radio 89.7 WGLS FM presents Beyond the Brown and Gold, a show that highlights the lives and memories of Glassboro State and Rowan University alumni. Now, here are your hosts, Rob Lightfoot and Jessica Kennedy.
Today's show is with guest Brian Kulak, 1998 grad, came back for his master's in 2012.
Yeah, now he's the principal at the Tatum Elementary School, but before that he was in the classroom for many years, Audubon.
Yeah.
And teaching, he's leading the baseball team as well.
Yeah, he talks to us a lot today about his current book, which is out on the bookshelves already. It's called The Hot Seat, and it's all about this basically classroom strategy he had, or kind of curriculum he developed about taking students and putting them in the hot seat and having them answer questions and kind of grading them on their public speaking, creating a safe space for them. And then he now brings this kind of method along with him to different conferences and does it with adults. And we escaped to the hot seat.
We escaped, today. But he didn't see it coming. We turned it on him.
Yeah, Brian does not escape the hot seat. So enjoy today's episode with Brian. Welcome to Brian and Kaylee. We have one alum and one non-alum in the hot seat today. So
I see what you did there.
Yeah. This is interesting for us
because it's beyond the brown and gold. We're going beyond.
Yes. So Brian is the Rowan alum.
Yep.
Kaylee actually works in our division of university advancement as the director of annual giving. But fun fact, Brian said he would not do the podcast without Kaylee. So we're going to find out why soon.
Yeah, I drew a hard line. That's how I roll.
I love that. So Brian, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you made your way here to Rowan.
Yeah, I was 14 years old in a freshman English class when I decided I was going to be a teacher. So a fabulous teacher and mentor read an essay of mine on Isaiah Thomas, the former point guard from the Detroit Pistons. And at that moment, when I got complimented, I'm like, all right, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to teach English. I'm going to coach. My life is set. And frankly, it was. Rowan was an easy choice after that. I wanted to stay close. I wanted to try to save some money for my brother and make sure it wasn't a burden on my parents. And then when I got here, I had two professors in particular that changed everything for me. Again, so I was always looking for positive teacher mentors, and I had a bunch in high school. I didn't know what to expect from college, but I had two, Dr. Viator and Dr. Haba, both in the English department, who just were transcendent. They just made me think and write differently than I thought I could. So that made me really want to continue to move on with English and teaching and writing. And then when I graduated from Rowan in 98, I student taught right away, got a job at my alma mater right away where both Kaylee and I went, which is how our relationship started. She was a sophomore in my class that first year. And then again,
what was little Kaylee like?
Sophomore year and senior year.
Sophomore and senior, yeah. Little Kaylee was, and this is in the book, she was like the every woman. She did everything well. She was everywhere in the hallways. She was the president of all the things, but she also was super thoughtful and mature. And when she got the hot seat question, which I'm sure we'll get into, hers was the first chapter I wrote because her answer was not typical of a 15-year-old kid. So I was like, I should probably start writing this stuff down. So I did. She's not the first chapter in the book, but she is the first chapter I wrote in 1999.
So let's go back. Where did you grow up?
Grew up in Audubon, small little town about 20 minutes from here, really known for baseball. I was a baseball player and coach there for a long time. I taught in the English department there for 15 years, fresh out of college. And then I hopped over to administration in 2014 in Collingswood, which is just a couple towns over.
Now, did you commute?
I commuted my freshman year, and it was miserable. I hated every second
What was
of
your parking
it.
lot? What parking lot did we go in? Lot A?
Across from the high school, whatever that one is.
Got it.
Yeah, it was brutal. So I remember I was so scared to ask to move to campus because I didn't want to put pressure on my parents for money. But I had met a guy who is my best friend now. His name's Mark Abear in Comp 102, and we both were miserable. He was from Deffert, I was from Audubon, and he said, why don't we just move in together? So we did, and I sheepishly asked my dad. I was like, I can't. This is not fun. I was just going to high school further away. Same kid, just wasn't getting the experience. I might have known 5 people, and that was a lot for me freshman year. So sophomore year, I got to Chestnut. Game changer, and then
I was going to say you were Chestnut, right?
It was Chestnut.
Chestnut, baby.
Third floor, second floor?
First floor.
I don't remember. My memory.
Yeah, my memory changes. I feel like you're on different floors every show.
I don't. It's because I don't.
She's just
really
taking
remember.
it.
I know exactly the entrance I was in. I just don't remember. I think it was the second floor, but I would be lying if I said
Yeah,
definitively.
we're first floor Pride.
So did that help you?
It was hot in there, though, right?
Not really, no.
Really? I cried like the first.
I thought that was mimosa.
The first 2 weeks, I called my mom crying so much. I was like, it's so hot in here. And
Really?
she was like, what do you want me to do about that? And I was like, I don't know. I want to come home.
I think that's a lot of conversations from a lot of freshmen.
Did it help you though? Did the move on campus help?
Yeah, so then I was like super involved in intramural sports, met so many more people, and I just spent more time, in the library. And I said to Rob,
Oh yeah, I tell people all the time I went to the library too. Yeah, me too.
That's
good for the show,
I
Brian.
did. That's good for the show and for people who are looking to come here. But I did spend a lot of time in the library. I was really hyper focused on getting out in 4 years, which I told Rob on the way in. I really wish I had like a fun party 5th year where I was had all my credits but I couldn't do it. And then I was in Crossings for the last 2, and that was the true college experience. And I'll never
Yeah,
forget.
for sure.
Yeah, Crossings were no joke back then, for sure. Yeah.
So did you always like to write? Like with just this one story?
Yeah,
Or
great
were you
question.
always
Yeah,
writing?
no, I was always writing, and back in the day, I was consumed by anything time travel or like shape shifting. So like all my creative stuff when I was in like 2nd or 3rd grade was about that. I was obsessed with Back to the Future, but then my science fiction nerdiness kind of went away, and I stopped writing about that, and then I started writing about real stuff. So my first book actually came out in 2019. It's called Level Up Leadership, and that's sort of an extended metaphor between the rise of the gaming industry and the rise of how educational leadership changed. Just to give you a quick example, when you first had your Atari, it was a button on top, you can move 4 directions. Old school ed leaders sat in their office and just kind of waited to put out fires. They weren't innovating, they weren't instructional leaders, but as time went on, the game controllers changed, the game characters changed, and so too did ed leadership. So when I published that in 2019, I had started a blog at that time, and I was writing every day, which just became part of my routine. Wake up early, write, go to the gym, and start my day. This book, however, I started in 1999, and it just was chapter after chapter, and then it was on the shelf for a really long time because I got to Collingswood in 2014. I pitched it to a bunch of people and had some hits, and then no one bought it. And then my publisher eventually did. Level Up came out in 19, so I knew I had an in. So then I said, Sarah, her name's Sarah Thomas at EduMatch. I have this other thing I have. What do you think? And she's like, well, let's talk about it. And she's like, let's do it. So I'm actually the last author to be published in the house. They're moving into like a PD consultation direction. So I was very early. I think I was like 5th or 6th in the publishing house, and now I'm last. So kind of a cool full circle thing for me and EduMatch.
So talk to us about the classroom experience and then shifting to administration. Like, what did you like better? Because oftentimes, we talked about it before with some teachers, they get into the biz to be with the students and teach and have that experience. And unfortunately, the only way they really climb up is to go the administrative route and get away from the kids.
Right. Yeah, it was a hard transition for me because of everything you just said. Like my relationships with my kids throughout my career were paramount. That was why I did it. But to your point, at that time in 2012, I just had our first child, and I thought it was time to make more money and do something different, which is a terrible reason to move out of the classroom. So when I did, it was really, really hard. In fact, when people ask me, I say I miss teaching more than anything else in my life. I actually applied for a writing position here at Rowan, so hopefully that becomes how I get my fix.
We'll put in a good word for
Thank
you.
you. I would love to get back in the classroom and teach.
That's why he said the library thing.
That's
right,
why he
yeah.
wanted this interview, actually.
It's just a marketing ploy by me. The answer to your question is I just kind of transferred how I led in the classroom to how I lead a building. So the people are still the most important thing. I think that I spend a lot of time on culture and climate. I just expect our teachers to be really good at their jobs. I'm lucky because they are. It's my job to cultivate a desire to come to work and work hard and make relationships with kids the same way I thought I did with people like Kaylee. There's 50 Kayleys in the world. In fact, we have a Dave Matthews caravan that goes out to see him every year. It's mostly former students, which is amazing. It's one of the best things about kind of not being in a classroom anymore is being friends with all these former students. But I love leading. Mm-hmm. I just really miss teaching.
Let's talk about that then. So what does it look like to build that culture?
When I first got there, I came from a central office position. So I went from the classroom to like what most districts call assistant superintendent. We called it chief academic officer, which is curriculum instruction, PD, right? Did that for 4 years. And when I got to Tatum, which is the elementary school I lead now, the first staff meeting, I said, listen, I need you guys way more than you need me. So I'm not doing anything differently. I'm going to start by learning and building what I believe to be a really positive culture. So quick hitters, I think all of us are connected in some way. So our motto then became, we are all connected. It's on our t-shirts, it's on our walls, our kids say it, our teachers say it, because I truly believe that to be true. But those early days, it was just a lot of observation and figuring out how to make staff meetings meaningful. So I listen to Adam Grant's podcast a lot. Right?
Yep.
He's amazing. And his whole thing is how to make meetings not suck. So we did a lot of things differently. So we had a shout out at the end of every session. It doesn't matter how the meeting went. We're going to shout people out and clap. The beginning of each one had some sort of game or tie-in or something that made us think about our jobs and our lives. I'll give you a quick example. We did a brown bag experience where everybody had to bring in a brown bag, like you would have when you were a child for your lunch. And in it, you had to put 3 things on sticky notes that you carry with you to work every day. So like for me, I was struggling with my relationship with my brother because he was struggling, and I was always kind of thinking about him and how to help him and my family. It was always in my bag. The problem is when you get to work, that's still in your bag, right? So we talked about all our stuff. And when that happened, people really started to become more vulnerable, and I think started to see me differently as someone they could trust as their leader that wasn't going to be a micromanager, because I just can't operate that way, and who cared about them way more than just the hours that they're in the building. So then I encouraged them for the rest of the year, keep your bag. And at the end of the year, I want you to try to take one thing out of your bag, and we're going to do this again. So we did it again at the end of the year. And at that time, I was able to take my brother out because he had made some changes. He had gone the other way, and I was celebrating it internally, but it probably made a difference with me at school too, because it wasn't weighing on me as much. And I'm super proud of him. But then people started to talk, and then people started to kind of tear up, and I can't believe this, we did this together. So then I realized something really good was happening. So that was just a hallmark of how I led, was how do I connect with people so that the last thing I have to worry about is me either coming to the rooms or their evaluations or how I'm going to handle certain situations. So I always tell people I'm exceedingly pro teacher. And when you're in central administration, that doesn't play as well. But when you're a building leader, it does. So I'm never going to change from that.
Now, where does Kaylee come into the mix? What year is little Kaylee Collins?
Yeah, little Kaylee Collins.
1999, 2000.
Okay.
So it was my sophomore year.
Yep.
And your first full year, correct?
Yep, first full year. She sat along the windows, about 4 desks back.
Probably 3 or 4 back.
Yep.
Like right across from his desk, though. Like he was right in front of me.
It was an inferno. There was no air.
It was so hot. Speaking of being hot in an old hot building, yes.
So terrible. Yeah.
And do you remember being excited that you were going to have him as a teacher? Like, did he have a reputation as a great teacher? Or no, you didn't know anything
I
about
didn't
Not yet,
know
yeah.
you because you had filled in. So there was like a switch in who was leading which classes. And so you kind of came in and took Mr. Sruinga's class and schedule, which is really nice.
It was very cool, yeah.
But then first full year was us, but also freshman year, I feel like you don't know what's going on. Like
You just
didn't
worried
know.
about your locker combination,
Yeah.
trying to
I
get your
still
books.
dream about that.
Yeah, I wasn't
What?
really as worried
That I
about
can't remember my
teachers.
locker combination.
Oh my gosh.
Just
Yeah,
anxiety.
school anxiety dreams are for real.
Oh my God, this was so we're so side. We're out of the side here. I actually was able to piece together every place my locker was, like every location in Cherokee High School, except for my junior year. I must just blank that year. I can't even remember where that is.
That is odd.
Right? I can do freshman. I can tell you where that. Can't tell you about junior year.
Did you get into some stuff junior year, Rob? Or?
No, let's not talk about that yet. We're here to talk about Kaylee. You know?
Oh, yeah, back to Kaylee.
Kaylee knows where her locker was because she was the president of
She was
everything.
I do know where all of my lockers were.
Locker
And
club.
I even finagled my way into like a better locker
Yeah,
stuff.
she was leading Rotary back then at the young child.
So let's talk about this hot seat question. What was that? Was that something you were implementing daily in class?
Not daily. So what happened was I was brand new, as Kaylee said, and I had no idea what I was doing. I don't mind admitting it here so many years later. I had 4 preps, so sophomore, junior, senior, different levels, and I was overwhelmed.
What year of teaching is this for you?
Number 1.
Oh, wow.
Number 1.
Okay.
So I had just graduated from the same school a few years earlier. Like I said, my brother was there. He was supposed to be in my class. I had to walk down and make sure he was not in my class. I had not moved out yet. So there's a confluence of a lot of things that could have gone wrong that first year. But one of the things I did was under plan. So we finished a novel in a junior class, a novel called A Separate Piece, and I didn't know what to do because it was a Thursday. So I needed something for Friday. So one of the kids brought something up he had done before. I kind of thought about it overnight, and I just came up with, I think it was 10 or 15 questions to start. And I said, next day, here's what we're going to do. I put a chair up front, call the hot seat. I have numbers. You're going to give me a number, and I'm going to ask you the question. You're going to go ahead and answer it. And it could have talk about going sideways. It could have been really bad.
How nerve-wracking for them.
It was. But I'm telling you, but they say that, but they took it so. I mean, all my extroverts ran to the chair, and they were easily.
So Kaylee was the
That
first
one
one.
person in the back.
So Kaylee was the first one.
Wait. My first question did not go so well.
Ooh.
Oh no!
You know what? This
Wait,
is my
it's a
fault.
bad question?
No, it's in my head. It was so brilliant. I had just watched a documentary, and I was so amped about this question.
What was the documentary on? Do you remember?
I do. It was. You remember Todd Phillips, who's like famous for Old School and
I know Wilson Phillips.
No, Wilson Phillips is older. Todd Phillips,
Nope,
who's
not
super
that one.
famous now, did a documentary on HBO called Frat House, and it was just a look inside fraternities. And I had just seen it, and in it, he talks about why some guys are willing to do anything to fit in. So the question was, do you think that people who go out of their way to fit in are the same as people who go out of their way to not fit in? I didn't say it as eloquently. I think I had something there about, how did I word it?
I interpreted conformity somewhere,
Conformity, yeah,
but
yeah,
I don't.
right.
And I knew what that word meant, but I sat there and I stared at him, and I had no words, which both of you know me and is very unlike me.
Were you
so the fact that I
nervous?
sat there,
I don't know how to
I was probably a little nervous. It was toward the end of it. It was maybe like around spring break-ish.
Yep.
Like we had
Yep.
had most of the class year, but it wasn't like.
Why did you
definitely
wait
the
so
end of the
long?
year. What do you mean?
No, I don't think it happened until.
Yeah, when we started this
Yeah.
exercise.
Oh,
so we
okay. I thought you'd be the one of the first ones up. That's
yeah.
what.
No. That was when we kind of like first launched the exercise. So we kind of knew everybody in the classroom. It wasn't an uncomfortable class. Like we were fine.
That was a great class, yeah.
Like speaking in front of each other and sharing with each other. But I had absolutely no words. I was completely blank, and he
Were
was
you worried about
he was sitting with
offending
the other
the
students.
quote misfits? Were you worried
No,
about
I just
offending-
I like couldn't process it for some reason, and I, again, like not really like me, and we were just looking at each other, and I kind of sat there and shrugged my shoulders, and he was kind of like, you can go back to your class. Yeah. So I was the only kid that like didn't really answer
So were
the
you
first round in the
getting
hot seat.
teased by the other?
No, I don't remember any of that, but I do remember later. It was like, well, only one student so far doesn't have a grade for this, and I was like, oh, I
You were
know it's
grading
me.
for this thing?
So I
Wait,
did.
so do you have an answer now? I'm curious.
Oh my gosh, that's a great question, Jess. Yeah, do you have an answer now?
You know,
She's shrugging her shoulders
This is
again.
PTSD right live in front of you.
I have another question.
So she did get another question.
Okay. Immediately, or she had to like take another?
No, she sat and we did another round, and I did grade it. It was super loose. Basically, if you got up, you got an A. It was just to get up there and do it. And then over time, which I talk about in the book, I started to really refine. I got a pitch counter. So every time you did something that we talked about in public speaking lessons, I clicked it under my desk. Okay. And that's how I scored it. 9 clicks was a 91.
Did they know you were clicking
yeah.
under your desk?
Yeah,
Okay.
but I did under my desk. It wasn't like this in their faces. But,
That was discreet.
there were some
kind
kids
of.
I really wanted to do that too. But so if you said like crack your knuckles, fidget, all the things we talked about in class. But her second question was, if you were reincarnated, what would you like to come back as and why? Which, I mean, that's pretty much a layup. You could say anything, especially after her first experience, which I felt terrible about. I mean, here we are talking about so many years later, and I still feel terrible that I put this person on the spot like this because we're such good friends now, and I'm surprised at that. With that as our start. But then she looked out the window and she answered it, and I was like, oh my goodness.
What did you answer?
So I did take a beat, and I looked out the window, and I came back, and I said, a tree. And we had a moment where it was quiet for a little bit.
Like
and
this?
everybody
Actually,
was kind of,
we just had that moment
exactly.
right now.
You're all
Yeah,
looking
yeah.
at me like, what? But it took a minute to process it. I looked back out the window, and there were these beautiful old trees that were right outside because he was right on the corner of the building, and it was right on the corner of the block. So there's like a nice little plot of land there. And I remember just sort of going into like, they provide shade for people. We were allowed to eat lunch outside. People would eat their lunch outside. There's a memorial there. We had class events out there or school events out there. It was right across from basketball courts that were always filled with people like on the weekends and after school, and the baseball field or the softball fields and little league baseball fields. Like there was just so much there. And I just remember being like, that's my thing. And also they live a real long time. I feel like
Take good care of them.
like
trying
I
to
was
stack
sort of
the
like,
deck.
Yeah.
So that was, I remember going into it a little bit and sort of, but I did have a moment where I was like, why did I just say that?
Kickball.
But then
Who would come back?
Who would
as
come
a
back with
kickball?
kickball? Nobody would come back with kickball.
no, those get lost so easily.
Yeah.
And kicked for all the time.
And kick all the time. It's just no fun.
violent
I know,
existence,
That's a
yeah.
bad I wouldn't have answered like that. Boy, I don't think you answered that question. Did you find this exercise bringing the introverts out?
Yeah, so eventually what happened was, and a lot of the feedback I'm getting now, which is 26 years later, right? People are kind of DMing me or emailing me or texting me about their experience, is not really the answer that they gave, but the communal approach it brought on. So I think you actually might have said that at some point.
did.
People answered it to answer it and get their grade and sit down. But then there's always a discussion. So Rob, if you got a question that Jess really liked, she could raise her hand and say, wait a minute, I'd like to answer that. Because once it's answered, it's gone. I just cross it
Don't
off,
say
right?
kickball.
I probably would have thrown you out. If you
Yeah, I
said
wouldn't have said kickball. That's a terrible answer. Who would say that?
all right, nice job, Rob. Have a seat. Anybody else want to go?
Another student without a grade.
Not the first time. Not the first time.
But then there's just a discussion that was just like, I can't predict what's going to happen. I don't know how it's going to go. I always jumped in. I was fully 23 years old, so I hadn't lived really yet. I was fresh out of coming out of here, and a lot of the questions came out of my own life experience. Like, I thought the love of my life I met here at Rowan, and it didn't happen that way, but we broke up right around the time I had started teaching. So that's a lot of things happening at once. So there was questions there about love and loss and resilience and that kind of thing. So I started to ask questions that I was curious about. People talk about this like, well, you started it. I'm like, all I did was provide a chair and ask the questions. But the kids in 1999 and up to 2013, they answered with such vulnerability. And like Kaylee said, nobody laughed at each other. There was no awkward things where it's like, oh, here we go again. People didn't perform well if they weren't good public speakers, but their answers were valid and meaningful and powerful. And I just couldn't help but write so many of these down. And then some of the other grown-ups in the class, elementary word, the other adults in the school wanted to jump in the hot seat. There's a chapter about a woman who hopped in the hot seat before she died. There's a part in there about our superintendent who I just saw at a retirement dinner this week. There's people, not just our students, really wanted to take part in it. So I took it on the road. I did it with professional development with other teachers in South Jersey. So now with the advent of social media, I can really take it on the road, right? So there's a lot of people who are tuning in to this show that we do on Thursdays, tonight, 8 o'clock, where I just talk to former students about the experience. And what's happening is they're like, well, I know what I said back then, but now I'm 40. So I want to answer that question again. And it's a completely different.
And they remember the question?
So many people remember the question and the answer and the feeling they had when it was over, because I always required that we clapped. I don't care what you said. I would just say clap, 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 and we would. And sometimes it was raucous because the answer was so amazing or powerful or validating or whatever. And then, at the book signing last week, a woman reminded me that 2 classmates talked about losing their moms in the same year in the hot seat. So like, I'm thinking to myself, like, I don't remember all. It's a lot of questions, a lot of answers, but they do. That's what's important. Like, I don't need to remember it all, but whatever we created in that classroom led to friendships like mine with her. I mean, Kaylee is a dear friend, and she's done so much for me with the book, but that only started because she was who she was in class and then in the hot seat. So I think that's kind of why I'm so proud of it, is just the way it's resonated for 2+ decades with all these kids.
I have to think that there's something about the youth, right? Because you were still a young cat at the time, that was able to connect with the students.
You could resonate with them, like that you were relatable.
I got that a lot. Yeah, I don't know. Did you think that was the case?
Yeah, I think, so much of elementary, middle, high school is memorizing facts, formulas, vocabulary, whatever. Or even if you're writing something, you're applying it to something you learned in class or a novel you read. You're doing these things, but you're not necessarily sharing it with the class. So this was an opportunity and a moment for all of us together, friends or not, just classmates, to be open and vulnerable, and also to be asked a question. Like, kids are just not asked questions.
There wasn't a right or wrong answer to.
There's not a right or wrong answer, and you are put in front of the classroom, but you're also being asked to think critically about something that maybe you weren't necessarily in any other classroom expected to sort of think that way or provide an answer in that same respect. So I think it was also an opportunity that wasn't really often provided in a lot of spaces at that age.
It was definitely risky too, because like I said, let's say I asked you guys, and you guys can play later if you want to, but if your question was who means more to you, mom or dad, and you had just gotten to me in September and I didn't know your dad was an addict or something, right? So now that opens up.
I would never answer that on a microphone, so don't ask.
Right, no, I will not. But that's one of the questions. So I think that, it was risky. I had administrators and mentors who believed that it would work and kind of left me alone. A couple in particular who are in the book and are all over my career. But I think that what Kaylee talked about, just the idea that no matter what you said, you were going to be listened to by at least one grown-up. I think Rob's right. I mean, I had some credit because I went there. My face is on the walls for sports stuff or whatever. I was a good kid, so it wasn't an eye roll that I was back in the building. I think I earned my job. But then I made it my own, which is what I did with, as an administrator too. I think I principled differently than a lot of other people. So just the way I taught, I'm just not going to change that. The relationships are way more important, I think, than everything else.
Would you still hot seat with teenagers? And does it work the same way that it used to in 1999, 2000? Or are they less willing to be vulnerable? What's the, do you see a difference?
I just did it about 2 weeks ago. Here's another good tie-in. So the middle school, it's called Read 180. It's a program for kids who are 2 or 3 grade levels behind in reading when they get to middle school. Well, I taught her, and she was in the hot seat. Her name's Jess. I went over, and these kids there's like 12 kids. They're low learners. They don't have confidence. They're never asked questions. All they have to do is read. Not that Jess is an amazing teacher, but so I brought the chair. We did it there, and I could not believe that these kids, never having met me, answered the questions with the honesty they did. I think there's a way to ask them with eye contact and kind of an emotive, empathetic, doesn't matter what you say, I'm going to support you after this, and just being there helped. But these kids never had this opportunity, so they did, and they ran with it, and they all did it, and they all clapped after it. And some kids, so perfect example, one girl got, is there anything worse in life than being called ordinary? And she said, well, I'm not ordinary. Tell me why. And she goes, I can't read. She's like middle schooler, and she said that out loud. Now, we know why she's in that class, but she doesn't know me from Adam. But she said it out loud. We're like, you can read, you just read differently than everybody else. And the teacher swoops in, and everybody's clapping. And this girl just chose to say this to a stranger and then get support from her classmates. So I think it still works. I did it with 5th graders for a while when I first got to Tatum too. And they were very fidgety in their chair. And they answered as best they could. But the questions lend themselves to an older audience unless you have an expert who's got the questions in front who can just kind of massage them for little guys. Yeah.
How do you think you build that trust and vulnerability? Because I feel like, sometimes we've been in trainings where it's like, share your deepest, darkest secrets. And it's like, well, okay, great. So how do you build a room, especially when you're an educator and you're dealing with students that are coming from all different backgrounds? How do you build that space they can feel vulnerable in?
That's a great question. I'll start, but I want to hear from you too. I think my own vulnerability is what led to the success of this activity. So there was pretty much nothing that was left unturned, no stone unturned, unless of course it was just inappropriate for kids. But they knew about the breakup. They knew how heartbroken I was, and I was kind of different for a while because it hurt so bad. They knew about anxiety, that I just thought differently. And then I think that was like, oh, wait a minute. If he's got it, maybe that's the thing I have, right? Mm-hmm. That's how I felt about imposter syndrome when I learned about it 10 years ago. I'd never heard the expression. My friend Dan said, I'm like, oh my God, that's me. That's every time I go right now. I feel like, I'm not supposed to be here. But I think over time, the more they heard from me, the more their shoulders sagged and they kind of took deep breaths. And then when I started asking questions and people who were able to do it the way Kaylee did, gave them confidence. Well, I can do that too. I want to get up there. So then it just kind of built upon itself like a lot of good things do. So how would you guys think? Was it just my age?
I mean, maybe, but I think too, we've also talked about Audubon as a whole. It's a very small town, and a lot of, I came over in 9th grade, but a lot of these kids have been in school together since kindergarten. So some of them are very comfortable talking to each other in a small group. And I also had you for an honors class. So the class also wasn't that big. We probably had a good, maybe 15 to 20 maybe. Yep. But I think, and also when you're in an honors track, you tend to be with the same kids kind of year after year, but I
wouldn't know that. Sorry, thanks for that. That new information there, Kaylee. Thanks for just kind of getting salt in the wounds there.
Being in a smaller school, we were maybe just generally more comfortable with each other. But I also think we had talked about previously, like even my friends that were answering questions, we hadn't never talked about that particular question or something that may be philosophical before. So you're even learning things about your friends who maybe you think are your best friends, you know everything about. So you're learning more about them, you're learning more about the other students in your class, and you're also kind of building more of these friendships. So I think it's, I think you were very relatable. I remember I would come in, I had him for first period, and I would come in singing songs every day because we'd listen to the radio.
Not much has changed actually at the office.
Yeah. Rob is my office neighbor, so I torture him too.
She tap dances and everything.
And I used to come in, I'd be like singing the song, whatever was on the radio. And at that point, it was a lot of Britney Spears. And do you remember when I bought you a Britney Spears poster? Because you told, oh my God. You were like, Kaylee, are you singing Britney Spears in my classroom? And I said, I am. And you're like, never do that again. But you were joking, right? Like you were.
These are the stories I hate.
Like you were, no. It was funny. And we like kind of cracked up and I was like, oh wait. And I think I was with Jenny and we were out Christmas shopping or whatever. And we found a Britney Spears poster and we came back to the high school and Mr. Westfall let us in your room and we hung it up in the back of the classroom.
Oh my gosh.
And I remember coming to class the next day and getting like the slow
slow
clap
clap.
as we came down the hallway.
Well played,
Yes.
Collins. Well
But
played.
I feel like, but you also, again, like I was also comfortable in like giving that joke right back
Yeah,
to
yeah,
you.
that's true.
So I feel
Yeah.
like there was just a relatability there. And then a lot of the work that we were doing in the class, you know, you were pulling from what you had just done in college. Like I had never taken a quote test before, and I took one my first freshman year, first semester.
Yeah.
So I think also some of the work we were doing too was like very higher level, but you were preparing us for what was to come, which was really helpful.
Do you think as people get older, they get nervous to answer those questions because they feel like you were like, oh, do you guys want to play? I was like, I'm not sure.
No, the whole thing here, the rub is we're turning it on him. That's the rub.
Okay, I like
Rub
that.
for today. I was going to
prepared.
spell it out,
Oh,
but
now we know.
Okay.
oh my
I'm
gosh.
so happy.
That's so.
Oh, trust me, I came defending.
Yeah, Mr. Kickball.
Yeah.
So it depends on the person. So we had the book signing last week, and I had some plants in the audience. I wanted to do it. My best friend went first, and he crushed it. It was such a wonderful answer, and he's so thoughtful. My brother, who I mentioned before, did it. His answer was amazing. He was not prepared and not happy that I called him. Like, bro, come on, man, I need you. So I think it depends on the person, but I also think that like there's so many tacit things you can do, like a subtle head nod or eye contact, like I'm doing with you right now, just to give you a sense that you're okay. I'm with you, even if whatever they're doing over there, I can see that I'm listening
Right,
to you,
paying attention.
Paying attention. I'm going to say something when it's over about how well you did. I'm going to ask a follow-up question, or I'll turn to the audience and say, "What a great answer from Jess. Anybody else want to say something about that?" And then the hands go up. So I think there has to be a disarming quality to the person asking the questions, because if it feels forced or it feels like professorial, then I think people are going to kind of clench up. But I just wouldn't let that happen.
Did you just wish somebody was asking you these questions? I want to like therapize you.
It's a great,
Say.
great question. I think so. I did have a wonderful, Kaylee mentioned him. His name is John Scribonia, and the way my career started is very odd, but he was pressed into action in an emergency cert situation because a guidance counselor passed away unexpectedly. So he calls me while I'm student teaching and said, "Brian, I got to go to guidance. Just get your A, you'll get this job." And I did. So I took over for my hero, my mentor, in the same class he taught me in. And I think that part of that made me feel more comfortable no matter what I was going to do. I think his mentorship meant so much to me that it kind of bled through into the way I taught in the book itself.
I was just curious if you wished somebody had
Yeah.
asked you these questions
that's right.
because,
He
like,
did.
were you looking for your voice, or was this something that somebody, like you said, did for you?
No, I think he did ask those questions in a way that was comfortable but not as deep as the hot seat gets. I don't think so. I don't think it was intentionally to be something. I think I just really wanted my career to be based on my relationships with my kids, and they have been. And whether the hot seat happened or not, that was going to happen. I know that I'd still have all these close friendships with former students, but not to the level I have now, because I think that brought us all together in that way. But yeah, I mean, the questions all come from either, something happened to me, a song lyric, something that I experienced, like that'd be a good hot seat question, or I see a commercial or some kind of weird question that comes in my head, and it just made its way onto the list. The list took a lot of forms over time.
Do you use it on your own kids? How old are they?
Oh yeah, 15 and 12. Yeah.
Are they like, Dad?
Sit
down.
We did it around the table one time, and it was great. Once I started telling them how close we were getting to publication and how important it was to me, they both did it. They're both really good public speakers. They're very thoughtful kids, and they answered their question. I don't remember what they were then, but what they answered them well. And we were fresh off the force. So, I had just left. We were in my new house, and there was a lot that could have, again, gone sideways, but they handled it really well. They both came to the signing. It was huge for me to have them there, and just kind of see a little bit of Dad's success and all these people here to see what the book did for them. So, but I think you can do it in any age level. Again, I think the arbiter of whoever says it is more important than the questions on the page, I think.
So I've got to go back to your English days in the classroom. Look, nobody's listening to this. You got. Oh, sorry, but you have to deliver whatever curriculum that they give you, right?
Yep.
In the school.
Yep.
You're an English teacher.
Yep.
We all know that there are books that you don't like, the kids didn't like, right? It's not for nothing. I mean, I was one of the, not that I'm saying that I ended up liking it later in life, but Shakespeare was like a thing that I pursued. Like I did like that later. What's a book that you just didn't want to teach these kids every year?
Great Expectations. There's nothing I expected to do with it. It was so long and tedious, and I hated it. But to your point, like they tell you what to teach, you teach it.
Yeah,
so you
like
just
because I figured there has to be some books that you were like, oh, I got to teach
Billy
this.
Budd. Are you kidding me?
I love Billy Budd. 'Cause
Which one?
John taught me Billy Budd, and I remember it so well.
Billy Budd, I don't know that one.
Billy Budd.
I'm just amazed at your
Melville.
memory. Like, how do you remember what you read?
Well, if you
Really?
hated it, maybe.
Like Beowulf? You don't remember Beowulf?
Love
Like
Beowulf.
I mean, I know the title. Could I tell you what it was about? Not a clue. Don't know.
To Kill a Mockingbird?
Oh, Beowulf.
Yeah, I like
we
To
did
Kill a
Beowulf
Mockingbird.
senior year.
Beowulf, yeah.
That
We
was
read
like
Raisin
my
in the
first-
Sun senior year.
Raising the Sun, yeah.
My first
was-
essay for you senior year
What
was
was the
Beowulf.
one with the boys? It was like a
Lord of the Flies.
Lord of the Flies?
no. Well, that was a good.
That was
one.
a really good one.
I
no.
love
It
Lord
was
of the
like
Flies.
bad. They were like bad boys.
Outsiders.
Yeah, that was good.
That's a great one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're bad boys.
There's not many you don't like actually in the
Yeah.
curriculum.
Yeah, I mean,
you actually liked a lot of them.
No, I did, but it was all like dead white men we had
Yeah.
to teach for so long.
Yeah, as I'm saying, it was boring,
Just
right?
So, yeah, like so I had to find. I think I was a little bit subversive in a lot of things I did because no one really was checking up on me. I was an alum, like they still love me, right? I mean, I wrote the curriculum at some point, literally. So like I was doing kind of what I wanted. And I brought
Like
some
Mad
stuff.
Libs. Give me a verb.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Changed it up.
I did a lot of like I would cut chapters. I would do passages instead of full works. Especially, I love Shakespeare, and that started here at Rowan for sure with Dr. Viator. But I'm not going to read every line of Hamlet.
Yeah,
with
sure.
A bunch of seniors, you know. I will say though, on the flip side of that, a book called Perks of Being a Wallflower, which came out in 1999. Changed my whole career. So Kylie gave it to me. It's got a green cover I'll never forget. And she's like, I think you'll like this. And it was on my couch for a while. I was living on my own by that time. And I was not interested in reading on my own after having done it all day. So I flipped it open one day and I read it in one night. And it just became a book that I knew was going to change the course of the curriculum and instruction at Audubon because no one else was doing it. It probably shouldn't have been taught. There's some stuff in there that's pretty heavy. But again, no one really checked up on me. You know, I made sure that we were doing it in an appropriate way. If
So by high school, I feel like kids know.
You would
Yes.
think.
They're
Let's stop
experiencing a lot.
pretending
Yeah.
that they're not.
Yeah, they're experiencing the heavy stuff. Like that's, I think sometimes we think we need to shield kids from things, and
totally
it's
agree.
like they are experiencing it. That is like that prime. Man, high school. There's so many emotions and
Yep.
hormones and so much going on. That's just so much of what you're feeling and you're going through. It's like,
Right.
how could
So
you
instead
not?
of forcing kids to read about, Billy Budd or, these archaic themes and characters and even the way it was written, or we could try this. So I
Right.
just, let me try it. So I slipped it in the curriculum and seniors read it. We did a bunch of projects with
Apparently
it.
a critic in the audience over here, though.
Oh my God, no, love this book.
Oh, you love that
Changed,
book?
yeah, oh my
Oh,
gosh,
okay.
yeah.
Okay, I thought you said you
changed
didn't like
reading
it.
for me. Like I mean, same thing. I always did all my reading, maybe a little bit, but
Yeah.
getting that book to read for class was incredible as a high schooler. Like that was, first of all, it was relatable. There was a lot in there. We talked about a lot of things in class. But then also, I had mentioned this to you before, but it was the first book that I read ahead and completely finished way before we needed to. And then for Christmas that year, I was buying it for everybody that didn't have your class. So anybody I was friends with, like they were all getting it for Christmas. And then even once I went to college, like I lost my original copy because I handed it out to so many people and everybody loved it. It was...
It is. It's
It's
one
so
of,
good.
It's one of the best. I mean, it's the catcher in the rye for this.
Oh, Kitchen, that was a good. You don't remember that one either?
I remember that. I could listen. Could I tell you what happened? I know the titles. I know I read it. And I liked it when
I'm
I
very
read it. I
accusatory,
did
I
not
apologize.
read
My bad.
That
Perks
did
of a
sound-
Wallflower. God,
Please strike that from the record. Please
Coming at you.
strike
Good thing we
that.
can edit
That was terrible. My bad.
That's funny.
My bad.
all right. So we're
We're gonna flip this on him.
We
All
want
right.
to put you in the hot seat.
I'm ready.
Yeah. First question. What's your ultimate comfort food, and does it come with a story?
Pizza. I don't know there's a story attached to it, but I feel like there's a nostalgia to pizza. Like I think about Mac and Manco's being on the boardwalk in Ocean City as a kid and looking forward to those gigantic slices, or Friday nights when your parents weren't going to cook and then Little Caesars would show up and you have pizza. Yeah, so did I. Sausage and peppers, man.
Yeah.
And then
Crazy bread.
As a parent, no one's ever going to argue with pizza, so we go to Treno on Haddon Ave and Haddon Township all the time. So I think pizza just has
love
been like,
Treno.
I love Treno.
My baby shower was at
Was it? We just saw a whole
good
wedding
spot.
there.
Yeah.
Really?
Right, a whole wedding in the
Couple
back.
weddings. Yep.
Didn't we just go? We go there years ago, right?
Yeah, with the radio station.
Yeah, it's really good. So I think it's a really good question.
All right.
I had not thought about the way pizza has connected in my life, but my first memory of pizza is Mac and Manco's and my grandfather in like 1980, something like that.
Do you have a hard time as they're answering not to engage in a conversation with them about it, or follow up to, or relate in some way? Like I feel like I would want to be like, yeah, totally. Like I love pizza. Like,
I was having trouble doing it while you were talking just then.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah, it's hard, but you're in the seat, not me. So
Right.
if I were to like jump in every single time, how annoying would that be for you guys? It would just be my seat, not the hot seat, right? That wasn't the point of it. But I think that kids often needed one of two things. Help extending the answer. Like it was a really quick monosyllabic answer, and that wasn't very hot. What about? And I would just extend it a little bit. Or the validation. Holy moly, what you just said was so powerful. So it's not just the answering, but just imagine being a 16-year-old kid And the teacher says, that was one of the most amazing, brave answers I've ever heard. And then you get to go sit down and just kind of bask in it. So that's how I did have to shut myself up. And there are times I didn't say anything because a question, I don't think I said anything after hers because I think the answer was so good. It would almost be inappropriate to jump in and say, well, here's what I think. Otherwise, again, I'd be talking to myself. That's a good question, Jess. Thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask Kaylee a question.
Oh, she's back in the hot seat. She's sweating.
Look at this. This is like taking you back. So what's one thing you always keep in your fridge no matter what? And why?
Great question.
See, I taught her. She knows what she's doing.
My gosh, my fridge is maybe embarrassingly bare. I mean, right now, always a pitcher of water, obviously.
Okay, all right.
I would say probably cheese. Like if there
cheese guy.
is, yeah, man. Girl dinner. Sometimes you just got to go home, slice up a little bit of cheese and crackers and keep moving on, right? So I'd say there's probably always some sort of cheese snack in the fridge.
All right.
Do you have a favorite cheese?
Usually just like a sharp cheddar.
Cooper Sharp American is a really good cheese. I'm just saying.
That so would be your answer.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm a little plain Jane.
There's a lot of questions about food on here.
Yeah, there was. I just noticed that's too.
Yeah.
Okay, so
food.
let's
Food.
smash
I
it
did.
up.
Yeah.
Okay, Brian.
Yes.
If your life were a movie, what would the title be?
That's a really good question, Jess. I'm going to take a pregnant pause to think about it. I use the word fortunate a lot with my career because everything that happened to me seemed to be set in place long before I had anything to do with it. So I'm going to say fortunate accident. The hot seat itself was a fortunate accident. I panicked and I came up with it. And then next thing you know, I'm talking about it on a podcast 26 years later. So I think there's a lot of my life that were based on fortunate accidents. We tried to get Gosling to do this. He said he's too busy. I'm not going to. I mean, Leo's probably a little more my age, and he's got the dad gut now.
Both
so,
love both of them. But Ryan Gosling's cheeks have not looked the same since he done Barbie. So
That's a good point.
All right. I think the hot seat's over.
Yeah, what kind of cheeks are we
Brian,
talking about?
how do we find the book, Brian? Just tell him.
That is ending
His
on
face
cheeks. His facial
Face
cheeks.
cheeks.
Yeah, we got to end on cheeks.
Yeah. So the book is available on both Amazon and Barnes & Noble. It's called The Hot Seat, Real Teenage Answers to Life's Really Hard Questions. You can find me at briankulak.net. We do an Instagram Live every Thursday night, 8 o'clock. So that's actually picked up a lot of steam where people come on. We talk about their time in high school, not just in my class. And then we ask a hot seat question as an adult and they answer it. It's been really powerful for the first 4 or 5. Kaylee was number 2 guest. And then I'm going to be doing signings all across South Jersey. Got one coming up at Raccoon Tap Room in Collingswood on June 29th. And then I'm going to hit a couple coffee houses and bookstores throughout the summer. And then hopefully do like another launch in the fall when people are looking for something to do in their classes.
I love it. I feel like it's a good beach read.
Oh, and that's the thing, is very quick read and
digestible.
And Kaylee actually coined it well. She said it's more like a workbook, right? Because when you finish a book, you put it on the shelf. When you finish this book, there's 100+ questions in the back that you can experience yourself with your friends or loved ones. I think you could take it to a bar. I saw a bunch of nurses at the hospital. One of the nurses is a former student. They were all kind of reading it together and asking each other questions. So it's almost like an icebreaker / hey, we're on a long road trip. It's just very useful. So I think workbook was a great way to put it.
So, Jess, kickball wasn't a good answer, apparently.
No,
That was not a good answer in the hot seat.
Is that what you would want to be?
I just came up with that because I thought you were looking at. She said she was looking out the window. Kaylee said she just happened to glance at the window into a tree. I figured she'd see kids playing kickball, and then that would be an answer. I don't know.
Do you have a real answer for that one?
What I would want to be?
Yeah.
Probably not for the air. No.
Wow.
Just kidding. Just kidding.
Well, I'll find out.
I can come with a funny one, but it probably wouldn't be appropriate. But
Well, the
that's
kickball
okay.
was funny.
Yeah.
enough.
Okay. All right.
So also that's not his first book. So I just want to close out by saying that he's the proud author of 2 books, and I want to read their full titles. So if you want to Google them, that you can. So his first book came out in 2019, Level Up Leadership, Advance Your EDU Game. And then the book that he's out promoting right now is called The Hot Seat, Real Teenage Answers to Life's Really Hard Questions. I need to snag a copy because I love that idea of like having like my kids around the kitchen table and just, asking them questions. I try to do that, but they're so little right now, but I like the idea of establishing that. As
to encourage at least them to say something rather than just good, bad, fine.
I know. That'll be great. So thanks, Brian, for that inspiration today. Best of luck on your tour. And we know we'll see you again soon. Can't wait for the next book that you come out with.
You've been listening to Beyond the Brown and Gold on Rowan Radio 89.7 WGLS FM. You can find more episodes on your favorite podcasting platforms by searching for Beyond the Brown and Gold or Rowan Radio On Demand.